Good freaking afternoon, Matcha Nation, Arbitrum Nation. I hope you're feeling good today. And by the way, if it's not afternoon where you are, I hope you're having a good day, whatever time of day it is. Folks, if you've been plugged into these spaces on Matcha, you know I'm bringing big hitters. I don't want that to ever be in question. I'm going to bring big hitters if you join these Matcha spaces. Today, of course, I have Matcha and ZeroX co-CEO Will Warren on the stage, going to give us some flavor on what's new with Matcha, how to get into cross-chain swaps, and another big hitter from the Off-Chain Labs team, the teams behind Arbitrum. I got Peter Heyman. Yes, sir. Peter Heyman, I believe, deals with partnerships, knows a lot about DeFi. We're going to pick his brain a little bit. Ooh, let me get Arbitrum back on the stage just in case they want to join the stage here. But without further ado, folks, let's get right into it. Once again, you are plugged into the Arbitrum and Matcha Twitter Spaces. And if you've been kind of just waking up or came back from a ayahuasca retreat or something, Matcha has had a big week. We just launched cross-chain swaps. I'm gonna let Will talk a little bit about that. But also, we're gonna hear from Peter on what's new with Arbitrum, the opportunities that you might want to swap onto Arbitrum to take advantage of. And yeah, I know that 'tis the season for opportunities, so let's get right into it. First and foremost, hello, Will. How you feeling today, sir?
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Wonderful. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. I hope you can hear me okay now. I just realized this whole time that my AirPods were connected to my phone, and I hope you were hearing me okay before this. But hey, thanks, Will. Peter, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Wonderful. Glad you're here. All right, guys, let's dive right in. First, well, before I get further, four of you are going to win 50 USDC for just being plugged in, being an early DeFi pioneer to hear about what's good in this, end of the bull market. Maybe I'm not going to say where we are, but thanks for being here. Stick to the end if you want to win 50 USDC. Four of you are going to win. All you got to do is retweet the tweet at the end of the spaces. Will, why don't you give us some color? I know you've been practicing this a few different times on spaces, but for the Arbitrum fam, what's new with Matcha? What did we just release? Why is this exciting?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not already familiar with Matcha, it's a DEX aggregator. And Matcha currently supports 11 different decentralized exchange protocols on the Arbitrum network today, including some of the big names that you probably are familiar with. I believe we just launched support for Camelot v3 as well. And Matcha not only now offers the best prices for just swapping any token on Arbitrum, but now Matcha also supports cross-chain swaps, making it even easier for users to move their assets into the Arbitrum ecosystem and to access all of the exciting developments that are going on here. So that's a little, that's the short answer of what is Matcha and what we've been up to most recently.
Yeah, it's been exciting being a part of it. I'm just the guy tweeting, but I've been very close to the people building this cross-chain swaps feature for Matcha. I also know it was a highly requested feature for Matcha by Matcha users, and I'm really happy that we're able to ship that for Matcha users. Peter, you've been using Matcha for a minute. We really appreciate that. You were part of our early beta testers for Matcha V3 and Matcha Auto. Just want to get a quick color on maybe your experience with Matcha, but also give everybody an introduction to your role at Off-Chain Labs.
Sure. Definitely a huge fan of Matcha. It's a product I've been using for quite some time. And for some context, I lead DeFi at Off-Chain Labs. I've been here for over 2 years. And for some context on what is Arbitrum, so Arbitrum is building layer 2 technology that helps to scale Ethereum. And Off-Chain Labs, the company I work for, is the builders behind Arbitrum. And we're building 4 products. So the first one is Arbitrum One, which is an optimistic rollup, which is the home for DeFi today. And then second, there's Arbitrum Nova, a chain focused on gaming and social that's built on our antitrust technology, which provides super low fees and strong security guarantees. And then third, there's Arbitrum Orbit, which allows you to use our tech to launch your own layer 2 or layer 3. And then lastly, I'd say that there's also Stylus, which allows you to write code in Rust, C, and C++ that can interact natively with Slee-based code. And this provides like computational and memory improvements and is currently on testnet. And so, yeah, really excited to be here today, talk further about cross-chain swaps on Matcha, and take it from there.
Heck yeah. Thank you, Peter. Gosh, hopefully, if you're listening to this, you're feeling the same way I am. People are building in crypto right now. We've been building and getting ready for, an upcoming market where everybody's participating on chain. We're really excited about that. Thank you for the color, Peter. Will, let's get right into this. What motivated, thinking about timing and relevance around cross chain, what motivated us, what motivated Matcha to prioritize developing cross chain swaps at this particular juncture in the DeFi ecosystem? Like timing wise, why we did it. Let's talk about that.
Sure. Well, as I'm sure Peter would attest to, the time has come for layer two solutions and scaling of Ethereum. The Ethereum network uh, it has such strong product market fit. There's so many different use cases and applications that people want access to on the Ethereum layer one, and that has over the last couple of years, that's really driven up the cost to transact on Ethereum mainnet. And in order for the space to scale and to support hundreds of millions or billions of users at a global scale, we're going to have to figure out how to scale blockchain throughput along with the number of users. And this journey to get to where we are today, where Arbitrum Arbitrum 1 has been putting up insane numbers in terms of like users and transactions. Like clearly this technology has arrived, not just in terms of like the technical underpinnings of the technology, but also the demand for it. And so yeah, been uh, we've been kind of betting on a multi-chain world where there's many interconnected networks and forming kind of a web of different consensus layers. That's kind of been where we saw the space going for many years now. And some folks will remember when plasma was first kind of introduced as a concept, plasma chains. Actually, the introduction of this idea, this concept, took place in San Francisco. I was at the event where Vitalik and Joseph Poon and some others introduced this concept of plasma chains, where they're more scalable layer 2 networks, but they're secured by Ethereum layer 1 security. And there's a great graphic I've seen go around that kind of shows the evolution tree of this original idea of plasma and all the different variations of this kind of tech tree that have been tried out. And ultimately, a lot of things were tried. A lot of R&D took place over the years, and ultimately, we're here today where there are solutions like Arbitrum One that are able to actually serve really significant numbers of users at really small kind of transaction fees. And so the technology's arrived, it's ready, and we were excited to jump on board with cross-chain swaps on Matcha. We've been wanting to make the leap, and it's very exciting to have it out there. Definitely recommend people go give it a shot at matcha.xyz. It's really seamless experience to pick any two tokens on any two networks and move between them as seamlessly as possible.
That's great. Well, thank you. We're talking about scalability here. This juncture of DeFi is maybe begging for us to move on to layers 2 and places with higher transaction through lower fees. What's your take on that, Peter? And how is cross chain potentially going to facilitate more onboarding of folks onto layer 2 like Arbitrum 1?
Yeah, I think Matcha's, cross-chain swaps will open up, more liquidity and user opportunities. I'd say in the past, if a user wanted a token on Arbitrum One, they had to, think about which bridging provider they should use. Then after they bridge their funds over, then they would, go to Matcha and get the token they wanted. And now what's happened here is that these steps have been reduced to one and are optimized to get you the best price. And I think by reducing these steps, it's going to have a major improvement from a user perspective, and we'll likely see more liquidity transact in this way in the future as more people get comfortable with cross-chain swaps. So personally, I'm excited about this. I mean, it's kind of like the holy grail of decentralized trading. Like I remember what Will was saying in the past. Like we want to have 0x was created originally to allow value to flow freely, and initially that value has just been transacted on single chains, but having it to move seamlessly between multiple chains, I think, is pretty amazing.
Thank you, Peter. That's exciting. It sounds like former bridging opportunities for folks that are trying to get onto layer two, like Arbitrum, were historically tough. And just to recap this for folks, it's really easy to do it on Matcha. If you go to matcha.xyz and hit the cross chain tab, you can pick from any 7 supported chains. And of course, Arbitrum One is one of them. And you can swap any token to any supported token on Arbitrum One. This is exciting for if you're trying to grab opportunities on Arbitrum right now, which I'm going to ask Peter about right now. Peter, what DeFi opportunities are exciting on Arbitrum right now? What are people doing? Where's the where's where are assets getting deposited to? Why should people be cross-chain swapping onto Arbitrum using Matcha?
Yeah, it's a good question. Initially I said that Arbitrum's becoming the home for DeFi. We're seeing that with various metrics across the board. So whether you look at, bridged USDC, I think Arbitrum's close to $1 billion. Last time we looked at ETH bridge to the chain, there's somewhere around 1.3 million, or a significant amount of ETH, versus some other chains out there. And so because of all that liquidity and organic activity that's occurring on Arbitrum today, it's attracting a lot of builders that's coming into the space. And so I'd say initially Arbitrum One has seen like a proliferation of AMM-based dexes like Uniswap and, Will mentioned Camelot and Trader Joe. Now we're starting to see more like order book-based dexes like Lighter and some others come on board. And I think we're starting to see teams experiment with other types of areas of DeFi. So we're seeing like isolated lending protocols that make it easier to spin up lending pools, which would otherwise be harder to do on other lending platforms. We're also seeing teams build dark pools for institutional trading, which I think is a major use case in TradFi. I know
write these down, folks. Sorry to cut you off, Peter. Write these down if you're if you're listening to the recording, go back to and replay this. Sorry, go ahead, Peter.
Yes, and sorry if I'm going too fast. Happy to repeat any of this. I know our team is also working closely with, Centrifuge, which is a pioneer in real world assets. To bring their pools to Arbitrum One. So those are just some of the use cases. I'd say around some improvements in lending and dark pools and real world assets, but there's certainly a lot more than that. And so I think having this cross-chain swap functionality allows you to tap into Arbitrum's ecosystem in a much easier way.
Peter, what apps are on Arbitrum right now that are also on mainnet where people might want to use the L2 version, the Arbitrum version, to save fees? Can you think of any off the top of your head?
Well, sure. Like a simple one would be Uniswap. So if you're on Ethereum mainnet today, you still have to deal with high gas fees. And so one of the nice features with Matcha is that it's a DEX aggregator. So it aggregates all these DEXs that you typically would use on Ethereum mainnet, and especially those that have deployed on Arbitrum One that's on there. And so Arbitrum One already lowers gas fees by somewhere around like 95%. And then there's going to be improvements that are coming soon. So, for example, Off-Chain Labs acquired Prismatic Labs, the team behind the Ethereum proof of stake client called Prism that's written in Go. And so their team is working closely on an EIP called 4844. So that's the proto-dank sharding work. And what that's going to do is it's going to help to lower the fees further for rollups. And so if you're a user, you get those benefits, and if you're a Matcha user, you'll get those benefits. And so over time, I think we'll just see a significant divergence in cost from Ethereum mainnet to what you see on our Arbitrum One, and with Matcha, you can take advantage of that.
Hot. Thank you, Peter. Will, this is a good time to tap you in. I think a lot of people are defaulting to whatever DEX that they're using on whatever chain that they use. Why should people be using Matcha on something like Arbitrum for swaps? And what kind of liquidity are we aggregating on Arbitrum and elsewhere? Yeah, I just want to help people understand the power of an aggregator if they don't know it yet.
Absolutely. So, why would it make sense to use an aggregator like Matcha if you're, a Web3 user and you're interested in interacting with multiple different networks, or purchasing tokens that might exist on different networks? Well, the reason is because Matcha integrates over 100 different decentralized exchanges, and weaves them together in order to achieve the best average price for you. And it does all of this behind the scenes and makes it really simple for you. Now, in particular on Arbitrum, one, there are 11 different liquidity sources that Matcha will tap into, including, mentioned earlier, there's Uniswap and SushiSwap and Balancer, and Curve, but there's also, Trader Joe, and Camelot, and some other up and coming dexes within the Arbitrum ecosystem. But Matcha also has proprietary liquidity. So we have what's called a request for quote system that is connected to professional market makers, and they compete against all of the automated market makers, the liquidity pools that exist on Arbitrum. They compete to provide a better price. And so we're pulling in all of this on-chain liquidity from the Arbitrum One network, and we're pulling in all of these quotes from professional market makers, and we're weaving them together in order to get you the very best possible price. And so, one of the benefits of using an aggregator like Matcha is, the pricing. You'll get better pricing. But another is coverage. And so you don't have to worry about going, checking different browser tabs, checking different applications to, make sure that you can get the token that you're looking for. We'll do that hard work for you, and make it as simple as possible. So yeah, and now with cross-chain swaps, the same kind of simple and familiar flow of, one token goes in, a different token comes out of Matcha. Well, now you can do that with tokens on different chains. And so now you now, kind of your complete Web3 toolkit for trading and accessing tokens on all the different networks that you might want to access.
And just like Peter mentioned, builders are building. There's tokens popping up all the time. I want to tell you one reason to use Matcha is that you can search any new token that pops up on Arbitrum within 15 minutes of it hitting the chain, folks. I want you to test this out because it's kind of like magic. Go to matcha.xyz, search for any token, try and mess with us. Search for a crazy token, and I guarantee you'll find it within 15 minutes of it being on the chain on the Matcha search engine. It's a search engine that also facilitates trade and also aggregates lots of different liquidity, like Will just mentioned. So aggregators, and it's live on Arbitrum. I don't know why you're not using it if you're not using it yet. All right, back to Peter. I want to talk about some trends going on in Arbitrum. What kind of trends are you seeing? What kind of type of trends is the off-chain lab seeing on Arbitrum from the users and the ecosystem? And namely, some of those trends that might benefit from cross-chain swaps. For instance, I know NFTs on Arbitrum is hot. So if you are somebody who is interested in getting something like, Lumitera or even Small Brains, and you have your assets on another chain like ETH, you can use something like cross-chain swaps to move some assets over there and buy those NFTs on a different chain really quickly. So that's just the one I'm thinking of, Peter. But I'm wondering if you have any trends to note from the Arbitrum ecosystem, and especially ones that might benefit from cross-chain swaps.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think most people associate Arbitrum one with being a DeFi chain, and that's because when I first joined Off Chain Labs to help AJ, my boss, I focused on DeFi, and then Size Chad focused on NFTs. So that's what we focused on initially, and then built out the partnership team from there. But the other use case that I am um, paying attention to quite a bit is gaming in particular. I think gaming is going to do quite well in the future. And we're already kind of seeing signs of that today. So, for example, on Pixel Vault, which is another team that's building on Arbitrum, they had like a test net, and they did somewhere around like 400,000 plus battles on their test net, which is pretty incredible. We also have been working closely with Pirate Nation, which is a team that got backing from like A16Z and others, and I believe is the former co-founder of Zynga is working on that. And so there's, I guess what I've noticed personally is that the builders specifically behind these teams are really, really high quality folks who have traditional gaming experience. Like I saw this firsthand when I went to the game developer conference in San Francisco earlier this year. And so I'm personally, really excited about gaming, also a little biased because I'm a gamer myself. And so I think that not only will you see opportunities in the DeFi space, but I think you'll also see a lot of opportunities in gaming, especially as these teams come out with tokens and new NFT opportunities.
Wow, great. I, of course, want people to be thinking about gaming as well. If you're someone like, let's say a lot of your stuff's on something like Polygon right now, and you're trying to, see what's up on Polygon chain opportunities, but you're trying to tap into Zverse, you're trying to tap into, the treasure ecosystem on Arbitrum. Something like Matcha's cross-chain swaps, just in one trade, bro, can get you the assets on Arbitrum that you need to go get the magic and go tap into some of these games. Don't mess with the bridges. Don't mess with especially the broken bridges and the wrapping. Tap in with cross-chain swaps on Matcha and see how that can improve your DeFi and your gaming experiences. So, Will, got another question. By the way, if you're tapping in with us, we're gonna get this 50 USD distributed here in the next 10 or 15 minutes. So please stay tapped in with us. But Will, a lot of talk about bull or bear. I'm not going to ask you where we are right now, but I want to see what you're thinking about, and also what Peter's thinking about in the market right now. But specifically with cross chain swaps, how does the utility of this feature vary in different market conditions? Does it, or does it have a better utility in a bear or a bull, or do you see it as a resilient tool across cycles?
Well, I think being able to very seamlessly move between different networks and access the applications that exist on these different networks. I mean, that is a table stakes capability. That is a tool that every Web3 user is going to need to have in their toolkit. So I don't think it really matters too much if it's a bear or a bull market. How important it'll be to have cross-chain swaps as a tool in your toolkit. What I will say is that, uh, I think that, uh, in the next kind of wave of innovation and adoption that emerges, I do think that it'll probably be a more multi-chain, form of innovation. I think we'll probably see interesting use cases emerging on layer two networks like Arbitrum One. I think in like some of the past uh, bull runs, I think NFTs in particular is kind of the last big bull run was oriented around NFTs. It was a very kind of Ethereum mainnet centric and Solana centric in some ways. Uh, you know, wave of adoption, and NFTs had never really made the leap from mainnet to layer twos in the way that I was kind of expecting it to. But I think the times have changed. So now layer two networks and scaling is here, and users are taking advantage of these networks. And I wouldn't be surprised if especially having really kind of low transaction fees allows developers to innovate and experiment with like interesting new use cases that only really make sense to even try in a sub 1 cent fee, sub 1 cent fee environment. You can't, new use cases can't thrive when you're paying. Users have to pay $5-10 just to interact with your application, and it's developers, experimenting and creating interesting new economic incentive systems and smart contract systems that ultimately kind of sparks innovation. And I think with layer two networks like Arbitrum One, like it's now possible for people to start creating really neat applications again that might not be able to live on Ethereum mainnet.
Yeah, it's you got to be a real rich person to be making these trades on mainnet right now. So I think for everybody in the space who's been continuing to play, continuing to find new opportunities, a chain like Arbitrum One and the opportunities that are on there have been quite enticing, especially with the transaction fees and everything. So, Peter, let's kind of round this out. I want you to help people think about more concretely again what is possible on the Arbitrum ecosystem. Like what, and we've talked about some of the DeFi opportunities, we've talked about gaming opportunities, but what, and we don't need to call out specific tokens, but what projects might especially interest people that might be inclined to use cross-chain swaps? These are people who are, interested in new opportunities across chain. A lot of those type of people in the chat right now. Let's say I'm on Matcha and I want to get onto Arbitrum. What are some things you would encourage people to try out?
So just fully as a disclaimer, I would say that this is my own personal opinion and not that of Off Chain Labs. But what I would say is some of those new use cases that we've seen on Arbitrum that you really can't do on Ethereum mainnet just because it's too cost prohibitive would be things like perps. So, for example, if you're trying to do trades on leverage or something like that, it's just too expensive on Ethereum mainnet. This is why we saw, DYDX was one of the early pioneers. They started on Starknet. They're building their own Cosmos. They built their own Cosmos chain, actually. But we're seeing a lot of teams like Vertex, GMX, and others launch projects like this on Arbitrum. And they've actually done quite well from a volume perspective. So there's certainly DeFi use cases like that you can only do on Arbitrum that just is way too expensive on Ethereum mainnet. And then I would say specifically like on the gaming side, for example, a lot of these teams are telling us that just Ethereum mainnet is also much too expensive, especially if they're trying to mint huge amounts of NFTs. And so this is why they're looking at chains like Arbitrum Nova or Arbitrum One to do the transactions on chain, just because it's a lot more affordable from a gas perspective. So those are some of the use cases I would recommend exploring, but you can still see a lot more of them if you go to portal.arbitrum.io. You can see a full list of all the DeFi use cases and gaming and whatnot that's on there.
Folks, once again, that was from Peter's own brain, not on behalf of any team in particular, but like I always promise you, big brains on these spaces. All right. The Off-Chain Labs partnership lead, DeFi GOAT, Peter Heyman, just gave us some things to look at on the Arbitrum ecosystem. If you have assets on another chain, Matcha.xyz will help you get those assets onto the chain you want to explore opportunities on in one single trade. Don't get it twisted. All right, Will, one last question for you before we start wrapping it up. I'm going to tweet a tweet out here while you answer this one. Folks, if you're in the Twitter spaces right now and not listening to the recording, look at the top of the Twitter spaces. You're about to see some magic happen. because I'm about to pin something and it's going to magically appear. 1, 2, bang. All right, retweet that tweet. Matcha cross-chain swaps are now live on Arbitrum. Give that tweet a retweet if you want to enter to win 50 USDC for being team early to this next market and team early to new opportunities in DeFi. So give this a retweet. In about 5 or so minutes, I'll pick a winner, and you got to be in the spaces when I name your name. This question is from a Matcha user, Will. And this Matcha user wants to know, oh gosh, a lot more. Oh goodness, a lot of questions came in. Sorry. What is the long-term vision for Matcha, and how does the project plan to maintain relevance and momentum in this ever-changing blockchain landscape? One more time. Long-term vision for Matcha, and how does the project plan to maintain relevance and momentum in an ever-changing blockchain landscape, Will? That's from Crypto Wavel.
Cool. Well, first of all, thank you for the question, Crypto Wavel, and thank you for being a Matcha user. We really appreciate it. So long-term vision for Matcha is to be like the search engine for tokens and liquidity. And, kind of our core thesis, ever since, we've been kind of building up and down the decentralized exchange technology stack all the way from, smart contracts and 0x protocol to consumer-facing product with Matcha. Our core thesis behind all of these efforts has been that all forms of value will end up tokenized on public blockchains, and we see traditional assets, stocks, bonds, fiat currencies, and more abstract forms of value that like couldn't necessarily be represented before tokenization became possible. Like we think that this is essentially what blockchains exist to do, is to establish ownership and management of ownership through tokens. So our long-term vision for Matcha is that it is the search engine for tokens and liquidity. You go there, you can look up any token that exists on any network, and you will find a detailed and enriched token page that explains all the information that you need about the token you're looking for, and that allows you to very easily buy or sell that token at the very best price. And that is it sounds not super hard, maybe, but yeah, we're only dealing with a few million tokens today. So Matcha currently indexes, I think it's like around 5 million tokens now, and that's kind of just a drop in the bucket where we see the world heading, and so being able to make it really really easy for anyone to find and trade tokens through Matcha is something that is going to be like a constant fight against the innovation that's constantly occurring in the crypto ecosystem. But yeah, how do you keep momentum and keep focused as the ecosystem changes around us? Well, it comes down to our mission. Our team is a mission-oriented team, and our mission is to create a tokenized world where all value can flow freely. And kind of regardless of what the latest trends are, or where the space may be shifting, kind of on a micro scale, we have very very strong conviction in this long-term vision of the tokenization of all forms of value, and allowing people, regardless of where you happen to be located, where you were born, allowing people to transact freely in a peer-to-peer way, and democratize access to financial services and investment opportunities. These are all things that are very important, and we think are net positive thing for the world, versus the system that we have today. So staying focused on that long-term mission, and kind of our product vision for Matcha allows us to stay focused and keep momentum going, regardless of bull or bear market.
Quote him, folks. That was hot. Thank you, Will. I'm ready to run through a wall right now. Matcha, good vibes. Hopefully you're getting that from Will. Good vibes. We're making the product that we think you want, and also aligned with our values of every form of value being tokenized and searchable and tradable on Matcha. So thanks, Will, for answering that question from Waffle Crypto. Peter, I got one for you from the audience as well. This is from Kryptonia $. Always early in our spaces, and we appreciate that. This user wants to know, what are some ways individuals can get involved in the off-chain labs community and contribute to its many projects? Peter, before you answer that, if you're retweeting this retweet thing to get the $50, make sure you follow Matcha and Peter. That's this. I think that's a small brain on. I'm sorry if I don't know the NFT. You've seen him speaking in these spaces. Tap his profile picture. Follow Peter. Follow the Matcha icon. Hell, follow Will too. And you're gonna need to follow these accounts to make sure you're part of the winning selections. All right. So sorry, Peter. Once again, from Kryptonia, what are some ways individuals can get involved in the off-chain labs community and contribute to its many projects?
Sure. So I think what I'll say about that is kind of the same advice that what I did originally on getting involved in crypto. So I mentioned the Arbitrum portal where you can see a lot of teams. You can also see these teams sorted by TVL if you go to DeFi Llama and then you go to the Arbitrum chain, so you could see how those teams rank on there. But one way to simply get involved is to just join the Discord and Discord for these various teams and see what they're up to. A lot of them have different governance calls. A lot of them have different announcements and things that they're working towards. So I would actually just encourage folks to start using these products and getting more involved. I think that's actually what I did. I want to say early on when even 0x was getting started, was I just kind of started following the account and chatting with folks and asking questions. And I think that's kind of the best way to learn hands-on. And then from there, there'll probably be more opportunities to participate. But certainly I would recommend, start following, other folks on Twitter. And eventually you'll start coming across new projects, new teams, more opportunities in the space. If you have any specific questions, of course, I'm happy to answer them. My DMs are open on Twitter.
Look at that. That's an invite, folks. I told you, plugging you in with the big brains. I only see a handful of retweets on this tweet, but I feel like I've given you enough time. I'm going to give you one more chance, though. Hit the retweet button on the pinned tweet right now. Will, what should Matcha users be expecting in the future? It doesn't need to be like far in the future. It could just be like, well, what can they be expecting from Matcha? At the end of this year and through the next year, what should people be looking out for from Matcha?
Oh man, there's a lot of exciting projects on the roadmap. Probably the biggest challenge is figuring out how to prioritize them in the right order. But yeah, I mean, so we just shipped trade history, which was the #1 most requested feature by our users, and bridging, which was cross-chain swaps were the second most requested feature from our users. And if you want to submit kind of a feature request or upvote kind of the existing feature requests that are there on the kind of like request leaderboard, you can check it out on Matcha. Click on the 3 dots in the top right corner, and that's where you'll find feature requests. But yeah, I mean, the working through some of these kind of table stakes pieces of functionality that you need in order to have kind of a complete Web3 toolkit at your disposal. Like these are the things that we've been building into Matcha, and I think there's still some room for us to. There's some fast follow items that we're excited to get to for cross-chain swaps, but yeah, there's also some really big features and functionality that are going to be coming down the pipes in 2024, and I'm excited to chat about maybe when we're a little closer to that time.
Sorry, I meant to send a smiley face, but there's only a laughing emoji. Thank you, Will. A lot to look forward to for Matcha. Peter, I'm going to ask you the same question for Off-Chain Labs, but while I do that, I'm going to close this raffle right now. The way I'm going to close it is by pressing pick a winner. So, Peter, while I do this, please let us know what should users be looking forward to from Arbitrum in the next year.
Yeah, it's a great question. Our team at Off-Chain Labs is working on several key initiatives. So one I would say is Bold, which enables permissionless validation, which is a first for rollup teams. It addresses delay attacks on rollup protocols and their severity. And our team is working towards a testnet for that. And so why is that important? It's important because it gets Arbitrum 1 closer to stage 2 on L2 beat, which is being fully decentralized, as Vitalik outlined in one of his posts on rollups taking off training wheels. So I think that's really important. And, Raul and some other engineers are working on that. And I'm really excited to see the testnet launch. The next I would say is Stylus, which I discussed earlier. So we're starting to see a lot of teams start to experiment with Stylus, mostly for those computational and memory improvements you get with Rust that you couldn't get before. And so, like, another way of thinking about Stylus is that it's the successor to EWASM, and our team calls it EVM Plus. So, we believe EVM is the floor, not the ceiling, and we're working to make it the best experience for developers. I think I mentioned EIP 4844 earlier, so I touched base on that, but in general, I'd say that I think a lot of hard work has gone on, in the past during the bear market, both from, the 0x and Matcha team, and also from Off-Chain Labs and a bunch of other folks that have been building the space. And I think a lot of people are going to be rewarded in 2024 as, a whole lot more new users and more liquidity starts to get onboarded as, the Bitcoin ETF and like other things start to get improved. So yeah, I'm really excited for 2024 and what's to come.
Thank you, Peter. You've just been giving us the alpha today. If that's what you've been discerning this as, by the way, folks, I hope you have been. There's lots of things to plug into and lots of reasons to be excited for 2024. All right, I have 4 winners for our 50 USDC prize. I'm going to send that on Arbitrum, by the way, just as another little kicker. So FYI, your 50 USDC, if you're a winner, is going to be sent on Arbitrum. Here are the 4 winners. I see you all in the spaces right now. Walker, Crypto Savior 95. I see you. I've screenshotted you. Road.bnb. This is a Matcha insider. I'm really glad that you were here in the spaces and that you won the raffle. Thanks, Road.bnb. Rascal.eth. Rascal ETH. I see you as well. Thanks for being here. And finally, Skipper. Guru_crypt. Guru_crypt. I see you as well. If all of you could check your DMs in a second, we'll facilitate that raffle. And thanks for being a listener. If you're curious on who number 5, it was Amir B, who is always in these spaces, and I appreciate that. So keep plugging in with us. Let's wrap it up, guys. I am so stoked for you joining us and these big brains I had on the stage. Will Warren, co-CEO at 0x and Matcha. I want to make that clear. It is both 0x and Matcha. And also the partnerships lead, DeFi GOAT from Off-Chain Labs. That's Peter Haymond. Thank you both for joining. Also, thank you to Arbitrum account for joining in the spaces, helping amplify a little bit. I hope you learned something today, folks. I hope you Moreover, I hope you're excited about DeFi after joining these spaces. Excited to try some new opportunities. They're out there, and you should be on them. I want to remind you to stay safe on chain. Stay safe when you're connecting your wallet anywhere, including on Matcha or anything Arbitrum. And yeah, let's give it to Will for one final word for the Matcha Nation.
Okay, yeah. Go check out Matcha's new cross-chain swap functionality. Give it a try. Move some tokens over to Arbitrum 1. Experience the cheap transaction fees. And you can do that at matcha.xyz. And let us know how it goes. Let us know how you like it.
Thank you, Will. I've pinned tweets, folks. You can go right and click the pin tweet with the Arbitrum picture and go swap onto Arbitrum right now if you want to. Also, Will mentioned some alpha that we just shipped trade history. That was the number 1 feature requested on our Matcha requested feature. Then we did cross-chain swaps, which is right now. You can also request a feature or upvote a feature you want made next, also in the pin tweet, the most recent one. So go ahead and do that. Peter, let us know one last thing you want from the Off-Chain Lab side, Arbitrum side, for people to remember this week?
Go use Matcha, and I think you'll have a great experience.
I appreciate you using your time for that. I also will tell everybody to go try Matcha and swap onto Arbitrum and find the new opportunities. Go back in this recording and hear some of the DeFi opportunities and gaming opportunities that Peter mentioned that you might want to explore. Once again, stay safe on chain. Double check the wallet and the transactions that you're doing. And I'll see you on the next spaces. Peace.
Thanks, Pete.